Coming to you from the Sherpa Chalet at the top of beautiful downtown Mount Podcastia, it's a special episode of Too Many Podcasts. I'm Jim the Podcast Sherpa, and today it's a special episode where I get to speak with people from the entertainment industry. So get yourself an aisle seat, pop up some popcorn, and get a cold drink ready, and sit back. Don't crunch too loud, or else you'll miss the interview from the Sherpa Screening Room.
Ladies and gentlemen, we now bring you to the main event of this podcast. It is a handicap match in which two professional wrestlers will take on one podcaster in interviews. Let's hope he's got insurance.
Oh, don't worry. I have insurance. I'm just hoping that I can run fast. Could I ever run fast? I guess that's debatable. Anyway, hi, Rebels of the Sherpalution. How are you? Jim the Podcast Sherpa here, and it is the pro wrestling edition of the Sherpa Screening Room. And I've got two interviews with two wrestlers, both who are currently involved in different projects outside of wrestling now, but they had a lot of interesting stories about the world of professional wrestling, and I figured I'd pair them together. Differing viewpoints from the guys, but they definitely had a love for sports entertainment, and they took great pleasure in entertaining the people. First, we will hear from Texas Truck Cheney. Then we will be hearing from Nikita Breznikov. And Nikita was the manager, then tag team partner of pro wrestler Nikolai Volkov, and he also managed Volkov and the Iron Sheik. And as usual, today's podcast is being brought to you by Audible, and you can get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/Sherpa. There's over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. All right, we're going to go down ringside, and we will speak to Tex first. Ladies and gentlemen, and rebels of all ages, in the ring for the Sherpa Screening Room interview is a big guy. He was a former professional wrestler, and he is now a model and an actor, and we are fortunate to have him here as our guest. Say hello to Mr. Texas Cheney.
Woo-wee. What's going on, truckaholics out there? I'm happy to be here. Good to see everybody or hear everybody. Everybody hear me. Well, let's get this interview going and see if we can't pick Truck's brain a little bit.
Sure. Okay, so Texas Cheney, that is your actual name. That wasn't your ring name, right?
Yes, that is my real name. I've had so many promoters in wrestling tell me, use your real name. And I'm like, no, hell no. You know, that is just something that you don't put your real name out there too often because of, you got a lot of crazy folks like to drive up in your driveway, see where you live. It's so easy. I kind of left it in a way where some people think that's a fake name, but it is my real name. I can give a quick description of that. My grandfather, he was born in Houston, Texas, and that was not his name. His name was Wallace. But he named my dad that, Texas Cheney. And my dad named me that, Texas Cheney Jr. And that's a real name. It's based out of, coming from Houston, Texas. Both of my fathers were sheriffs. My father and my grandfather were both sheriffs. So I guess that name Texas was just, it was appropriate. And it has definitely sparked up some conversation pieces in my life, let me tell you. But Truck is my wrestling name. I picked that out myself.
Yeah.
Kind of like Texas Truck Cheney, like the Rocky, where sometimes he always went by the Rock and he went by Dwayne Rock Johnson. There it just goes Dwayne Johnson. That's kind of where I probably plateau off when the movie industry has me 100%. But certainly now this is my last year wrestling, and I could devote most of my time to the screen right now.
So when you first got started in wrestling, was there anything that piqued your interest? Did you go to a wrestling show and said, this is what I want to do?
Yes, it was, I've always wanted to wrestle when I was young. I was always in sports, football, baseball, boxing, lifting weights. I was just always very athletic my whole life. Since I was 8 years old, I was always lifting. I started very late in wrestling. There's been a couple people to do that, which doesn't really matter. As long as you get to where you feel happy, that's all that matters. But I was a late bloomer and started wrestling in my 30s, early 30s. I just looked all around and seen, looking for things. And I Googled it. Two closest shows was the two closest training groups was in Raleigh, North Carolina, which is actually 2 hours north of me, versus 7.5 hours to Atlanta, Georgia. Those are the two choices. So I just caught up, and the guys said they would like to meet me, and next thing I started wrestling immediately. In this old school. I mean, I'm talking a dunk. When it rained on the ring. This is an old, rotten building, just rusty ring that had blood and puke and whatever, just gross. It was old school. I mean, I could draw a picture of it, and then times 10 is how bad that would be. And I did really good. I started selling pretty fast after the first 2 weeks of training. I actually got my first paid wrestling video. I made $5 whole. So I wrestled against, there was a handicap match. I wrestled Mike Mosley and Superstar Darrell Kelly in Rayford, North Carolina.
Okay, yeah, and you worked in different federations.
Yeah. I've worked with WWE, TNA, NWA, AIWF, OSW. I've worked with all of them. They're good companies. It's a cutthroat business. There's a lot of, I think WWE is probably the one that, I don't know, a lot of guys can say, I'm not knocking them, but they do things that are just, sometimes I'll shake my head like, you let a great looking warrior go, pick a little fat guy, that has to wear a T-shirt to go out to the ring because it's so fat. I just don't get it. And I'm not knocking people. I ain't saying any names, but back in the gladiator days when people fought to their death, they looked pretty damn beefy and lean. They were gladiators. They didn't look like something that just didn't look appropriate. But that's none of my business. I'm not the man that controls it. But there's a lot of people feel like I do. Let's say, for example, back in the 80s and 90s, the wrestling that you've seen then is what I think wrestling should look like. Like when Stone Cold was there, Goldberg, The Rock, Triple H. Now you got these guys, they look like they're in a Halloween costume. You know what I mean? That's about all I can say about that part. I don't want to go too deep if people call me and cuss me out. I didn't name their names.
I'll protect you, Texas. Don't worry.
Thank you.
Very often pro wrestling tends to go through phases where it goes through an over-the-top thing, and then I remember WWE had like what they call the attitude phase, and they go to the extreme where it would be a little bit more outrageous, and then things kind of get toned down for TV, and then they swing the other way on the pendulum, I guess, to see what draws in the most viewers for the TV audience.
Yeah. That's what they're doing, and almost kind of like what you're saying. If the Nelson reports wasn't showing positive, they wouldn't be having those people on there. So it's doing something positive. The kids and a lot of kids like some of the stuff this week. So, now, I'm not knocking it. Wrestling's wrestling. They're just different eras. They're going to have different perspectives. So, like I said, it seems like I'm knocking it, but I'm not really knocking it. I guess it might sound like there's a form of jealousy, but it's not. It's just I've seen it go more from gladiator look to Halloween. Look, you know what I mean? It's kind of changed. I remember there was this one kind of good example. There was this one show I used to wrestle at in Myrtle Beach. The promoter always wanted to hire these guys that wrestled like in chickens and clowns. They didn't want no big muscular guys working in the ring. And the kids liked it. That's why. The kids like to see Mr. Rooster Man beat somebody up. So that's who he started to hire comic book people.
Yeah, I guess it's whatever pays the bills.
That's right. Yeah, that's where the money's at. If that's what they want to pay for, that's what So, like I said, I'm not really knocking it. It's just, I could probably go on and on like a book. But it's part of the business. It's part of the business.
Yeah, it's an observation from a man who's been through it. So that's okay, Texas. Don't worry about it. Pro wrestlers are very well known for one thing, such as the big laundry list of injuries that they've had in the ring. Have you had an extensive amount of injuries, or have you been pretty lucky?
Oh, no, man. I broke every bone in my body. I think the worst breakages I've had was my ribs, especially when there was one moment that I had two ribs side by side on the front right. I had broken. I actually had a bad cold, and I was coughing. And I tell you what, you talk about some pain. Coughing with broke ribs is no joke. I remember one time I was on the couch and I was up in Raleigh in a hotel, and I was coughing so hard. I was just like, God, I wish I get cough. Next thing I know, I passed out and fall forward. I wake up on the floor. The pain was that bad. I'll never forget it. Like, man, if you haven't coughed and passed out because of broke ribs, you've never felt the pain. I know there's some other pains like internal organ pains that are far worse, but that was probably my worst, busted head. But wrestling is fake. It's a performance, just like a movie with physicality. The people are performing and they're beating each other up, and it sells. Is there injuries? Are you really taking a suplex, hitting the floor? Absolutely. You do get hurt.
And you have to know how to do it right, too, which is really what it boils down to, right?
Yep. The terminology of that is knowing how to sell and taking a fall. And you got to know how to do it right or you will get hurt. Yep.
I don't know if a lot of people realize this about pro wrestling. How much time in the span of a year would you spend on the road?
Oh, 270 days a week all the time, man. You're like 3/4 of the year. A lot of travel time. You can limit that. You can get paid less. You make more money the more you work.
Sure, and I guess between the flights and the rent-a-cars and hotels, and you're probably the most seasoned traveler that many people know.
Yeah, I don't know if this is true, but I know with WWE, I've heard through the grapevine. Like I said, I'm not saying this is a fact. This is what I've heard. But the way some of the contracts are being written, I heard that the guys were being responsible for their own hotel, travel, all that, and that it would get a lump sum contract. You say like you're offered $500,000 a year to work with WWE, and I know someone right off I'm thinking about, but I'm not going to say his name. And he was responsible of that $500,000 a year to pay for. I'm talking overseas travels, hotels. When you're doing 275 days a year, that $500,000 gets eat up pretty quickly. So, a lot of people are leaving because of the way the structure was getting paid there. They wanted a bigger company to pay for the travel as well, hotel. Sometimes they look, everybody's pay was based different. There was no structural payment there.
Sure, and for being on the road that long, it's definitely got to take its toll on you, too. I would. Now, you did it for like 13 years, you said.
Yeah, 12 years. Yeah, 12 years. Yeah, it was. It's been fun though. When you're younger, it's even more fun because you don't have to worry about a family. But if you do have a family, I can imagine how rough it must be. I wish at the latter part I did start having a family. I just couldn't see myself being away from them that much. But when you're young and you don't have a wife, kids, it's the best thing in the world. You get to travel the world. And, everybody loves to see you. You definitely won't be alone, but you certainly will have to, come to the realization, you're not going to wake up every Saturday and cut your grass and latch the quarterback and jump in your pool. It's not going to be like that. You're going to go out food. You're going to be staying in different hotels, accessible to so many different germs and viruses and stuff like that. It takes its toll on you. It beats you down like a tire getting worn down. It eventually gets bald.
In all that time, in that 12 years, did you have any favorite matches that kind of stick out in your memory?
I think one of my favorite matches was when I wrestled. I don't know why this was so good. I guess it's because of how, the whole purpose of it's a show. You want to show the people out there, you want to give them a show. That's what they came to see. But I think the best show that I had, there's two of them. This one was years ago. I wrestled in West Virginia. I wrestled Tony Atlas. And, that's a big name. He's Hall of Famer. It was West Virginia. The town closed down, let me tell you. They knew wrestling was coming. They all closed down. I don't even think the fire department, police department would help you when the show was there. They all were at the school. And there was probably, there was over 4,000 people in the school. And the main event was me and Tony Atlas. We come out and he just, he was the best guy to work. He really was. He was amazing to work. Probably one of the best performers I've ever worked with, to be honest with you. The crowd went nuts. They were it was so loud. And I was so excited about it. I'll never forget it. Then the next one was a match that I had with in Atlanta with the Boogeyman. Remember the Boogeyman that eats worms?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I wrestled with him, and I sometimes, if I have the room and opportunity, I like to come out on a motorcycle, a custom-made chopper. Sometimes I can't do that because of the venue, things like that. There's just restrictions and what have you. But I come out and my motorcycle on the side of this big Civic Center one time. It was a packed house, and they popped so hard for me, hard for him when we got together. And when we had the lights out, because he was the Boogeyman, and it was just when the crowd when the match goes right, and you go backstage and you feel like you both performed really well. And that crowd screamed at the top of their lungs, that was as good as you can get it. So those were the two that come to my mind.
Like you said, you're transitioning into doing some acting, and you did some TV work, and you've been in some movies as well. So before we go into your acting career, I want to throw this question at you. I'm going to give you 3 acting wrestlers: Dave Bautista, The Rock, and John Cena. Now the game is, which one do you want to act with? Which one would you want to fight in a match? And which one would you want to have a beer with?
I mean, I would work with all 3 of them, but if you wanted me to take my top pick level, I'd like to work with Cena. To have a beer with would definitely be Batista. Having a match with, I would love to work with The Rock.
So how was it like for you to make the transition into acting?
Well, you know, everybody has always had that in them that way. They go, oh, Lord, I'd love to be in a movie. You know, I want to be an actor. Or, you know, people say that, and then there's the people that really want to do it, and then there's people that want to do it that do it. In my city I live in, it actually is like a little LA. There's a lot of production going on here. Has been for years. There's been quite a bit of it moved towards Georgia, but they're coming back here to the Carolinas, where I live. I have always known and seen that Hollywood likes to pick some of these wrestlers that can perform, because we're already on that plateau. We got that plateau of wrestling. We're already a performer. We know how to act. We know how to do physical stuff. That's all Hollywood requirements right there. And then if you got the body, and you know how to act, and you know how to do action work, you're perfect for their roles. So Hollywood is starting to see that's where they're starting to pluck their action heroes. Like years ago, you had Schwarzenegger, Vin Diesel, you have Sly. Those guys weren't wrestlers. They had certain aspects about them that were qualified to be good actors. But now Hollywood's starting to pull the wrestlers because they see how well, like The Rock, Batista starting to really blow up now in the movie. And then you have John Cena starting to work in the movie. And then you get Stone Cold. He did a little bit of stuff, but I think he's more now on the talk show hosting things like you are. He's got a podcast thing going on too. He did some TV shows. You know, I started about my 6th year in the wrestling. I had some people come up to me wanting to get me to do some movie work. So I started doing it. Done a lot of short films, done a lot of movies, TV shows, been in a lot of stuff. Actually, there was one of my biggest auditions. I blew it. My agent had to sit me in. She told me I had to come see this audition. She couldn't talk about it over the phone because it was that big. And I remember my head wasn't right. I'm not going to go into on radio why my head wasn't right. It's a personal thing. But today I could have aced it. But back then when I did this audition, I was going to be working with Jason Statham, and the film was written by Sylvester Stallone. And it's actually, it's called Homefront. If you look at it, you can view it online. It's a big movie. And I blew that. I didn't get the audition. I auditioned, but I didn't make it because my head went right. But that movie there, I probably wouldn't be talking to you right now if I was in that movie.
You never know where life takes you, though, Texas.
Yeah. And I'm not going to look back at it like that either. I'm just going to be like, you know what? I'm where I'm at. I'm happy. If I die, I'd want to come back and be me again. And God put me in the spot I'm at. I'm going to live with it. And I'm happy. You know, I am. I'm really a happy man. I do regret it, but I'm not going to let it affect my life.
Yeah, that's the right spirit to take.
And I'm proud. Yeah, and I'm proud to be on your show. It's just something I like to do. It's just a good thing, and I appreciate you having me, by the way. I also appreciate these people out here listening to us. Yeah?
I was going to say, if people go to your website, TexasCheney.com, there is a section with your show reels on it, and it shows some of the parts that you've played in a few of the movies that you've been in. And I've noticed that with the movies that are on there, you definitely play the big kind of silent guy with that kind of quiet intensity.
Yeah, and I can do dialogue too. I like to do more dialogue. But yeah, I've got that silent intensity for sure.
Do you have a favorite genre of movie?
Definitely James Bond, hands down. You like Batista, Dave Batista. He did a villain in the last James Bond movie, Spectre. I was jealous for it. I tell you, that was perfect for him. My hat tips off to the guy. But yeah, James Bond movies and Marvel, like the Avengers. That's the kind of stuff, superheroes, things like that. Batman, and again, of course, I like all kinds of movies. Actually, I've got some stuff coming up. I got some soap operas that may be interested in me. I'll do anything acting. I'll play old hermit if I have to. I like the good A source movies that are like 007, Marvel, things like that.
And I'm sure I could envision you as even a Marvel villain. I mean you're 6'2" and 250, 260,
280.
280. Okay, yeah,
280.
Yeah.
Don't be shortening me up on TV or radio now.
Yeah, we can't get Texas mad. You see, let me explain something to you. If you've never seen what Texas looks like I said, check him out on the website so you kind of get a feel for what he looks like. And this is a man who could probably pick me up by my skull between his thumb and his forefinger, fold me up like a pocket square, and stick it in his jacket pocket.
Ladies and gentlemen, he has forgot that he's from New York. So if I really had to choose how to roll him up, he would be rolled up like a cannoli.
You get extra points for knowing what a cannoli is.
Yeah, I eat cannolis all the time. There's some friends of mine that opened up a deli. They call it New York Deli. It's here in my town, and they're from Brooklyn. And the guy's wife and him, they make homemade bagels and cannolis, and they actually have water shipped down here from New York to make this stuff. That's supposed to be the secret, the water.
Sure, I've heard that.
That's what they say. And they're good friends of mine. Yeah. I'm going to add something to the website, www.texascheney.com. That is my website for everybody, but it's also, I've got something new that is really cool. Steve Joyner, my publicist, had told me about it. It's called Cameo. Have you ever heard of it?
No, I haven't.
Okay. It is the 21st century autograph. Basically, what you do is viewers can go on Cameo. Let's just say you have a sister, and her birthday's next week. Well, you can go to Cameo and look on my site, Texas Cheney, and you can go on there. You can find my profile. And what it does, the people can go in and pay money. Mine's only $15, and all my proceeds go to St. Jude's. Some people are up to $2,500, like some of the NFL. I mean, there's some famous people in there. I mean, big-time guys, like Brett Favre, football player, rappers. They got to categorize rap, rock, actors, professional wrestlers, stuff like that. So you go in there and you click wish list. And basically, you go in there and you type, say, you got a sister. Say, my sister's birthday is next Friday. Can you please wish her a happy birthday? This is her name. This is how old she's going to be. Pay the $15. My website notifies me that I got a job to do. And then what I do is I post that. I go on and I click it, and I make a personal happy birthday greetings to your sister, for up to 1 minute. And then it sends you a link to your email, and you can let your sister see it. Her favorite wrestler, her favorite actor, whoever it may be, she gets to have a personal greetings from that person. Isn't that a cool thing? It's called Cameo.
That sounds like a lot of fun, and I think given your background, you could probably do some interesting video calls, too.
Yeah, it is pretty interesting. I like to change it up sometimes. It's really funny because I have it on there like, if you want to get a shout-out from me, birthday, divorce, any special, motivational stuff, and it's really funny because I kind of stole that. I can't say that was original, but I had one other person there. They were laughing. They're like, look, any kind of occasion you want, if you're getting married, birthday, divorce, so whatever you want, I'll give you a shout out. You're having a celebrity get up with you and giving you a shout out. It's pretty damn cool. I mean, the other way, there's nothing else like Cameo with a C. Cameo. You'll see me on there. Just click my name on the search bar.
Okay, that sounds like fun. I could imagine, like, if it was like a video call, if you could record stuff with like breakaway furniture, and maybe say somebody was having a birthday and say, have a great birthday, and then take somebody and just throw them through a table or something like that.
Yeah, and I could do that. Yeah, that's right. Sure can. Give them a little bit of action, too.
You'd be like your own personal pay-per-view.
Yeah, you kind of give me an idea there. That's pretty good. Yeah.
Okay, so I know you said you had a couple of projects coming up, but you can't really get into too much information about them because a lot of legal stuff has to be finalized. Yeah.
I don't mind giving you some stuff. There's a couple. One's a Western movie coming up. One of them is a gladiator movie, and I've got the soap opera gig coming up. And I also got a possibility of having a cooking show coming up for myself. So I got 4 things in role position now, and that's just a short role.
Okay, I hate to jump on a stereotype, but if you're doing the cooking show, is it barbecue?
Well, I would prefer it to be barbecue. We haven't gone too close to the details. I was just basically asked if I would do it, and I replied yes. And that would be something I would definitely recommend because barbecuing is very lean, very healthy, a lot less fat, and I would definitely put that in there as a pointer that we're doing a cooking show. Let's take it outside and do it old school, grill.
I want to point out to the listeners that even though Texas isn't wrestling as much and he's going into acting, he still keeps himself in good shape, and he actually has a workout after we're done with our interviews, and I appreciate him taking the time before his workout. And he looks into eating well also.
Yeah, actually, guys, I'm working out right now. Right now, I'm actually doing some flight. I don't know if you can hear me grunt, but I'm multi-talented. Yep, I'm always going to work out. When I'm 70 years old, I'm going to come into the gym with a cane.
This is the first interview I've ever had where someone was doing squats in between questions.
Yeah. My mother told me there was nobody else like me. She said, when God made me, he body slammed the mold. But that made me feel proud, Mom. Thank you. But, yeah, I'm working out while we talk out there. I felt like it was, because, I don't want that to be offensive to anyone, because to me, I'm proud that I can work out and do something I love along with doing something else I love, and that's entertaining the public. So I'm working out and entertaining right now. I'm double dipping. I love it. It's like Reese's Cups.
Well, folks, we have a lot to look forward to with Mr. Texas Cheney. I'd like to thank you so much for being on the show.
Absolutely.
Before you go, though, I have a request. Could you do one more movie?
Absolutely. I got to tell the story where that comes from first, then I'll do it. God bless. I love my Uncle Jim. He was a badass Marine and Purple Heart veteran. He took out some big names that I know that I can't say honoring him. And he used to always, as a little kid, he always would come up to me and he'd make the noise I'm getting ready to make. And I always wanted to make it. Everybody's got their own little noise, like Ric Flair, and I wanted to always do something, a rhythm. And I was like, you know what? I always would walk around my whole life doing Uncle Jim, making that noise. And I made that part of my profession. Uncle Jim, I love you. This one goes out to everybody, my Uncle Jim.
Texas Cheney, again, thank you so much, and best of luck to you with all your future endeavors, and we'll be looking for you on that screen, sir.
Hey, Rebels, we're not done yet. We'll be right back after this word from Anchor. Hey there, Rebels. I am sitting ringside today at the Sherpa Chalet with my guest this week. He is an actor. He's a model. He has been a wrestling manager and a pro wrestler. And he's also the author of a book called When It Was Real, which is about, guess what? Pro wrestling. And he's actually spent time in the ring, and he's going to tell us some ringside stories. So everybody, say a nice Sherpa Chalet hello to Nikita Breznikov. How you doing, Nikita?
Good evening, Jim. I'm happy to be here.
Your wrestling story starts when you were a cop in Baltimore.
Yes, actually, it was before that, because as a fan. And I would say just about everybody begins as a fan. And that's why I know we'll get to the book later, but the whole reason for it was how it touched us, how it made us understand that there was, like in my case, an abused child. There was somebody there that actually cared about us and for us. And even though, yeah, I know you're talking about, you're watching these goofy wrestlers, it's like they spoke to us. On those promos, when Chief or Bruno said, man, I need you to come and support me because I got this tough match, hey, we took that to heart. And then we were there to support them because, we felt like if the roles were reversed, they certainly would be there to help us. So, hey, that was family to us. We loved it, man. So, yeah, I was involved that way. Then I met Nikolai. It was an afternoon show in Baltimore. I was still in the patrol division, so I saw the advertisement in the 7-Eleven on one of those cardboard posters that becomes a staple in wrestling fans and wrestlers' lives. And with it, it said he's going to be at an afternoon show. So I'm an avid tape collector. Well, now it's DVDs, of course, but back then it was tape. So I thought, well, let me see if I can get close to Nikolai there, talk to him. Maybe he can give me a line on some things. So when he came out to sell his gimmicks, I was there, and, he's like, hello, Sergeant. Never met me before, didn't know me or anything like that. And I, right off the bat, we had a bond. And I told him, I'm looking for matches on you. He's like, I have nothing. Please, if you make for me, I pay you. I said, no, you're not going to pay me nothing, man. Geez, after all those years, what you did for us, no, you're not paying anything. So I, made some tapes for him of his matches, gave it to him, and then we become friends. So, what the natural progression is, it's like, hey, Nikolai, I want to get in the ring. And he's like, no, you have a good job. Everybody gets in the business, gets hurt. You'll be my manager. And I'm like, man, I don't want to be the stupid manager. It's like Nothing. So after a while, he convinced me, and we did it. And then it became it was just like, there. I'm in the ring. The first match was with Duke the Dumpster, Duke Drosy back. It was November 16th, 1995. We did a double shot. Then that night was with Neidhart, and we're in the ring. I'm working him a little before the match, and I'm looking at him like, man, this guy knows what's going on, right? I mean, because it looked like he's going to kill me, And it's like, geez, Nikolai comes over and kind of like stops whatever's going to happen. And it was like, man, Nikolai, this is wild. Here I am right in the middle of all of this. And so some people would say, well, I guess it's like a dream come true. And I'm like, are you crazy? I never thought I could be a part of any of that. I know I never dreamt it. I never thought it. I'm the luckiest SOB on earth, I'll tell you.
And Nikolai trained you how to ring wrestle, right? We showed you how to do everything?
Yeah, I had a good background already, martial arts, from, police academy, boxing, all that kind of stuff. So, it was now, you know how to defend yourself. Now I want you to do it without killing the guys you're going to work with. There's fighting and then there's working. So it was like, okay, yeah, whatever, I'm here to learn, whatever you say. So, I picked up everything, and then working him as the manager at nights whenever we would do the show. I'm always working with, main events with him. So I'm learning from Superfly Snuka and Sergeant Slaughter. And then when the Sheik would be with us, and even Bruno. I worked a couple of matches with Bruno when he was refereeing. So it was like, hey, I got trained at Killer Kowalski a couple of times with him. He was referee. So it was like, it wasn't just Nikolai. I learned from so many others as well. So that was just like, I absorbed it too, because I always believe, and I have kept this as a staple in my life, shut up and listen, especially to the old timers, because they got there. Some way, somehow, they made it. So listen to what they tell you, because, they're going to make it, or they did make it. Now, if you want to make it, just pay attention to what's happening and then see where you go from there. Before wrestling, it was about 85% managing, almost probably 90%. But then I'd say about 4 or 5 years into it, I said, Nikolai, I'm bigger than a lot of these guys. He's like, yeah, what the heck? We become tag team. So we did that. And then, we did the tag team thing. That was with the Dino Sana, the WWWA, Worldwide Wrestling Alliance. So was definitely, to me, and when people talk about the book, or like I always say, the day the music died, was the day when Hulk Hogan took the belt from the Iron Sheik. And I don't mean that in a negative way. It's just, it was different. It became a different kind of a situation as far as how we viewed things, because people, our guys like Chief and those guys of that era, they were getting older, and it wasn't going to be able to stay the way it was. I give Vince all the credit in the world. I say, hey, definitely is a smart guy. He's got more billions than I do. So who am I to argue with him? It really, he turned that corner with sports entertainment. Things kind of went a little bit crazy for a while there. They had troubles. Ted Turner coming in, and he was trying to run things his way. And it was like, well, Vince still, even battling all that money, he still came through and was successful. And, it was like the cartoons of 90, which him and Steve Austin, it was like, hey, I didn't miss any of that, because on Monday Night Raw, that is, because it was entertaining. You wanted to see what the heck are they going to do tonight, How Stone Cold going to try to put the screws to Vince, and it was fun to watch. It really was. Again, entertainment, but still, it's got wrestling to it. You're doing it in the ring. So, okay, boom, boom. They were able to get it done.
When you were growing up and watching wrestling, did you have certain favorite wrestlers?
Oh, yeah. Chief Jay Strongbow, without a doubt, who became a dear friend of mine the last 10 years of his life. It's funny, you listen to people like Jim Cornette, and he doesn't say it in a disrespectful way, but he'll say, I will look back and I see matches of Strongbow, and I just shake my head. It's like, I don't get it. All he's got to do is get in the ring and throw his head back and shake his shoulders and go into the war dance, and the crowd pops. He said, you got people killing themselves out there, and they can't get even a quarter of that reaction. They get a little bit of a clap or two here or there, but man, Strongbow, he let the opponent get the heat on him, and then next thing you know, he makes his comeback, and he owns the crowd. Nothing to it. So it's like, yeah, that was it. Because again, it mattered what they were doing. And last year when I was at Cauliflower Alley, when the book was released, they had the Luna Vachon Battle Royal, and I was part of that as a manager, and a couple of other matches that went on over the subsequent nights. And it was like, I'm watching these young kids in the ring, and it's like, my God, you're killing yourselves. There's no way you could do this like the old days on a nightly basis and try to make a living out of it, because you couldn't do it. There's no way you can get up tomorrow and just be like, okay, boom, I'm ready to, roll. Let's go hit the road. Let's do this. There's no way you're going to be able to sit in the car after the bumps you were taking. And then it kind of becomes the trying to outspot each other. And after a while, the spots lose their value. And, whereas before a couple of the opening matches, first 3 matches, it was like, just go out there and heat them up. That's it. Just get everybody ready. Then you built to your main event, and it was like, don't you dare take the heat from that main event. But today, I tell you, Jim, I can't tell one from the other. It's just, people dress different. They look different. But all the matches, they look the same. So, Nikolai used to say, gotta keep it simple. People, they want to be entertained, but they don't want to think. So don't go out there and make it too confusing. You got 6 people come in, making run-ins, and this is going on. Then you got 3-way matches and all. It's like, oh, man, you get a headache after a while. It's like, whew, you're almost glad it's over. Where with us, we were crying when the match was over. We didn't want it to end.
The earlier years of wrestling that you're a big fan of, a lot of those wrestlers, they weren't showy, but they just had that sort of appeal. Like you said, they knew how to light up a room without doing much. I mean, Bruno wasn't one to wear crazy costumes. He didn't do wild moves, but people kind of related to him as like a working class kind of guy who was just, strong as an ox.
Well, and he was humble, and that always came through because he didn't act like I'm better than anybody. He was one of us. And, hey, he did come from, surviving in Italy, living in the mountains with the war, with the Nazis, occupying their town and having to live in the mountains. And he almost died from starvation a couple of times. And it was like, you don't lose sight of that. Like Nikolai's family came from communism, was Croatian, and his mother was Russian. So he knew what it was like to have the communists take over. And it was a situation where he did not enjoy that character. In the beginning, when he was first in 1970, when he was part of the Mongols, that wasn't a big deal. It wasn't any kind of USA versus Russia stuff or Mongolia. It was just, okay, the Mongols, their size and their appearance alone was enough to get them over. And then when he returned as Nikolai Volkov in 1974, he wore all black trunks, black boots. It was nothing, no Soviet flag, nothing like that. Didn't need it. He was a powerhouse. But then in 84, with him and the Sheik, when Nikolai returned from Florida, when the expansion took place, that's when they dressed him in red, gave him the flag, and it took Freddie Blassie to convince him to go along with it and to do it, because he didn't want to do it, because he said, man, I hate those bastards. Why I want to act like that? And they said, well, because you're going to show people what it's all about, Nikolai. You're going to show them what they're like and how they treat people. Of course, to me, that's probably one of the most drawing heat tag teams of all time, because to get in and out of the buildings, it was a fight. And then he said in Madison Square Garden, they have to take them out in an ambo at the end of the night, hide them in the back, because State Athletic Commission always had Dr. Ambo standing by in case somebody got injured. They would park blocks away, obviously, several blocks away. And then at the end of the night, get in the back of the Ambo, and, they just drive out of the building like they're going back to the station and drop those guys off at their cars, and they get home safe. But the battles with Sergeant Slaughter, see, a lot of people give Hulk Hogan all the pat on the back for the expansion, but it was like, yeah, he was a big part of it. But you can't forget Sergeant Slaughter and Nikolai Volkov and the Iron Sheik that year as well, and sure. Piper and everybody else. Like, it was a combined effort that got that over.
And it must have been kind of scary for him, because I know when they would get in the ring, the Sheik would grab the microphone and he'd yell like, Iran #1, Russia #1, USA, pah! And, just to kind of fire up the crowd and everything like that. So they would get all the heat, having to get out of places like Madison Square Garden, or even if they were wrestling down south or something like that. I can imagine some of the situations that they probably could have faced.
Well, Nikolai told the way the Soviet national anthem began, it was actually down in Louisiana, and it was Grizzly Smith, and he was the booker for Bill Watts, and he forgot to bring the tape that night. But they say, I ain't going to trust anybody. Nikolai, give us the tape. We bring it every night. Don't worry, you'll have it. So I said, okay, here's the tape. Boom, boom. His mother sent it to him, so they play the music. And Grizzly Smith forgot the tape one night, so Bill Watts said, oh, you screwed up the whole gimmick for the night. I'm going to give you a big fine. And Nikolai said, no, you don't have to do that. I could sing it. And he said, what? He's like, yeah. Let me go out. I'll sing Soviet National Anthem. So he said, he went out, and they set it up perfect. They said, ladies and gentlemen, we have some bad news for you. Nikolai Volkov's tape was stolen, so tonight we cannot play the Soviet National Anthem. So, of course, everybody's happy. They're all excited. And he said, however, instead, Nikolai Volkov is going to sing the song. And they're like, oh. He said when he started singing and they started stopping, and he said, first time in my life, I was scared to death. He said, I tell you, I thought they were going to just come to the ring and kill me. He said it went over big, and that from that point on, they said, oh, forget the tape. You sing. This is beautiful.
A little question about the Iron Sheik. He was actually one of the Shah of Iran's bodyguards?
Absolutely. Yes, that was true. He certainly was. And he was the real deal as well. He could get out there, and he was, even though he came from that country, he trained United States Olympic teams in 72 and 76 before Vern Gagne picked him up. And, Sheik, even right now, I know he's not in the best health. I wouldn't want to fight the guy. He's pretty good. He knows what he's doing, and he can get it done. He certainly is the real deal. And he says that many times himself, I'm the real deal. I'm the Kurt Angle. And it's like, he can certainly profess all of these things because, without a doubt, has done what many people profess to do. But, like Bob Backlund, he was legitimate. Backlund could get out there, and he's 70, and there's no way I'd want to fight Bob Backlund, I'll tell you. Even today, he's doing headstands and all this other kind of stuff. Backlund is, he stayed in shape. He took care of himself. He got everything done the right way. He had good diet and stuff like that. More than anything, he always carried the banner of wrestling. He was always respectful. And that's why in the beginning of the change, we'll say, with, when Hogan took over, and, Backlund apparently was invited to be part of it, and he didn't want to do that. Anybody that was some kind of kooky character or anything like that, in his opinion, he just wanted to be Bob Backlund. He's a wrestler, two-time NCAA champion, and that's all he wanted. Plus, he said, and this is from his book, my daughter was in school, and there's no way I wanted to go out and perform in a way that would bring, for all these years he was running in Connecticut wrestling schools for children and things like that. It's like, man, this guy's an idol. He was legitimate. He's out there giving back to the community. So it's like, man, I can't turn around now and become some kind of a heel character. It's just not going to work. But then years later, he took some time off and then came back as Mr. Backlund, which personally I never liked it. I don't remember him for being Mr. Backlund as much as I do for him being Bob Backlund, the All-American. That was my favorite.
When you were wrestling, did you have a favorite match that you were in?
Not really, because I felt so fortunate to be any part of it at all. I think the best experience I had as a manager was Heroes of Wrestling, because that was just like, wow, everybody is here. It's such a big event. It was supposed to go further, deeper, last longer, but it's not that easy. Everybody thinks these kind of productions, you got $20 bills to blow your nose with, and it's like, it's a lot of money involved with this stuff. And if things don't go completely the way you're hoping, you're just not going to come out on the long end of it. So it was, to me, that night everything was done like a huge spectacular. So many people were there, all the names. We worked with the Bushwhackers, Nikolai and Sheik, and it was just fabulous. We had a wonderful time. Everybody performed well. I hear people say certain things about the pay-per-view. Some things went wrong, but all in all, to me, if you badmouth it, it's like going to Yankee Stadium on Old Timers Day and booing somebody that, like strikes out or whatever. It's like, come on, seriously? You're going to go out there and knock these guys after all they've done through the years? You're going to sit there now and say that they're this or they're that? It's like, hey, respect them for what they're at least trying to do. Nobody said, hey, you're going to see these guys in their prime. You're going to see them at the state that they're in, present time, and they're going to give you all they've got to give. That's it. They did their best, and if you can't accept that, well, then just leave it alone. Don't go out there and knock it.
Yeah, and talking about paying respect to the classic wrestlers who really brought them to the dance, so to speak. I remember hearing that for years they wanted Bruno Sammartino in the WWE Hall of Fame, and he really didn't want to have any part of it. Then he finally just kind of gave in and said, "Okay."
I don't know exactly what happened. There was a lot of rumors, money, this, that, or the other, but Bruno certainly paved the way for wrestling. He saved them company several times. So it was like, okay, at some point they're going to have a building. They're going to put this legitimate Hall of Fame brick-and-mortar building together. So it's like, you can't have one without Bruno Sammartino. And Bruno had to be a part of it. So I guess, this is my speculation. I don't know. I wasn't involved with any of it. But I think Bruno probably thought, yeah, you know what? Enough time has passed. It's time to let it go and put him in the Hall of Fame when it happens. Of course, he's in that Hall of Fame that they just do up on the stage and the plaques and all that, but when they actually have one that's a building, a brick and mortar building, he will be in it. So it's like, good. He deserves to be, because how could we have anything and you wouldn't include Bruno Sammartino? It would just be ridiculous.
Let's talk a little bit about your book, When It Was Real.
Yes. Now, I started that project, oh boy, it took 10 years to get it out there. And when I say that, it took me about 2 years to compile it, but it took me 8 more years, or I'm going to say 6 years, to find somebody that would get behind it. I got a lot of, another wrestling book, who cares? Or it's about the 70s, who cares? And then when I came upon a site, Scott Teal from Crowbar Press, I said, let me try Scott Teal. He seems to be a historian, and he really gets behind these kind of projects. So I did. I contacted Scott Teal, and then he was like, wow, it's interesting, but I tell you what, I'm not really into it right now. Thanks for thinking of me and trying me again another time. And I was like, crap. So I did. It took me 3 tries, but the third time he says, all right, I tell you what, send me a sample, and I'll take a look at it. So I sent Scott a sample, and a couple of weeks goes by, and he's like, you know what? We got to do this, Nikita. This is something unusual, he said, because you're writing it from the fans' perspective, how you saw it, and how it affected your life. And then, of course, I got into it, but the relationships that I had with people like Strongbow and Nikolai and Bruno, different Kowalski, it was like, I can give a different view, but it's more about how we, in the neighborhoods, how we viewed it, what it meant to us, how we absorbed it. And it wasn't just, okay, we had 1 hour every week, that was it, from 4 to 5 on a Saturday afternoon. And then monthly, the shows would be there. And that we didn't turn the television off and go about whatever we were doing. We kept living it. We kept talking about it. And when you went to the arena, it was like Christmas every month. We were nuts. We loved it. So it was like, wow, this is just super fantastic. Everything was beautiful. Everything was great. The color. I learned so much over the recent years with film, and you have to have the proper lighting. And if you don't, then it doesn't matter. You could have whoever, named the greatest actor in the world, and it's going to be garbage. So they were smart when they would turn out the house lights and turn on those ring lights. Man, the color was vibrant. When somebody bled, ooh, baby. But I guess, call us whatever, demented, perverted, crazy, but we were frenzied. If you hurt the person that we loved, you had hell to pay. But then when that person got revenge, we were in the frenzy because we loved it. So it definitely had seeing that experience. I feel sorry for people today that are fans, because you can't go back to that. It was innocent because you didn't have the net. You didn't have all this yak, yak, yak telling you what the hell's going to happen next, what's going to go on. It was, unless you had a friend in another city who had access Felt like he saw his show in Boston, and then he'd call you, tell you what happened. He'd be like, wow, he'd compare notes a little bit, but didn't have that leak. Business was protected back then, so nobody dared speak. They didn't even travel together, face and heel, that kind of thing. So this was a situation of, wow, you could enjoy it, even though people are whispering in your ear, in some cases laughing in your face, telling you it was this, it was that, but it's like, hey man, I don't care. I'm loving it. I'm enjoying it. Just let me be with my wrestling. And it was the greatest catharsis for everything. You left your troubles outside the door, walked into the arena, and it was a world of magic. It was like superheroes came to life.
You probably had like such a brotherhood with all of the wrestlers, whether they were faces or heels. But yet, I guess when they traveled, they had to put up the image like, oh, well, I don't like this guy, so we're not going to be seen in the airport together, or we won't be seen having lunch together.
Yeah, and that was hard. It caused a hardship in a lot of cases, traveling, and, camaraderie, things like that. But, don't you dare get caught, because the promoter is going to give you a big fine, if not just say, don't show up tomorrow, we don't need you anymore. So it's like, yeah, it was tough. But that's what they put forth. That's what they put forward to keep it, like I call it, true fiction. It was legitimate to us, and you didn't want to ruin that. If it was going to be ruined, it certainly was not going to be ruined because somebody on the inside blew it. You always had these goofy reporters want to come out and tell you about this or that. They're going to expose the business. Like, man, stop it with that already. Would you, for Pete's sake? That's why I saw something online a few days ago. Somebody reposted when John Stossel got slapped. And it's like, well, you know what? You thought you were, I don't know, whatever he thought. I can't speak for the guy, but it's like, here you are, you stick your head in the lion's mouth like that, it's going to get chewed off, and there's a lot of stories about, whether Schultz was told to do it or not, but it's like, something? You decided, Stossel, to stand there, and, you're going to act like, I guess he thought could never happen that somebody would strike out like that, but he did. And then it was like, okay, well, you kind of asked for it, like the old commercial, Toyota. You asked for it, you got it. Boom. So it was like, well, that's that, and do I, a lot of people say, oh, well, no, that wasn't legitimate. It's like, yeah, it was. There was lawsuits, the whole routine, and he nailed him good. And Schultz, he was honored at the Cauliflower Alley last year. And what was it? Most inspirational, outstanding. He got a nice award, which he deserved without a doubt. And he talked about it a little bit because it's in his book. So he said, I would prefer you buy the book and read about it. But he said, I'll talk about a little bit of it. And it's like, I bled in this business. I've been hurt. I've been hungry. He said, I don't want to have anybody come up and make a fool of it or laugh at it like that. And, for what, ratings? It's like, come on, no. Too many people. There's, Jim, there's been people that died in the ring over the years. And it happens, and you got Darren Drozdov, he's still crippled, and Bruno had the broken neck, and there's a lot of people over the years that suffered injuries that, hey, no, we're not going to have somebody laugh about this or think you're going to expose it. It's like, I really loved Vince. I don't know if you remember seeing the whole show. Everybody always remembers Schultz, of course. But when Vince he sat down with Stossel, and he was questioned, and it's this, it's that. And he said, well, if it's not sport and it's not entertainment, what would you call it? And Vince said, I don't know. It's kind of like, kiss my ass. It's like, I love the guy. It's like, you know what, I'm sitting here, I'll give you the time of day, and I'll let you ask your goofy questions. But that's it. I'm not going to go deep with you on this. You don't deserve my time. But, hey, actually, Vince is smart. It's free advertisement, and he took advantage of it, so that was good.
Could you talk a little bit about Cauliflower Alley?
It's a wonderful organization that goes to support, wrestlers in need. Like last year, Kamala really got a big, they sent him a plaque. But before that, I think it was Chris Jericho that paid his back taxes on his home because they were getting ready to evict him. With Cauliflower Hour, it's called the Ring of Friendship. People wrestlers from the past in need, they come to the rescue with donations or whatever. But it's also a great time of camaraderie. I really had a wonderful time being there. You see so many people you've never met, friends that you know and you've never really met face-to-face, like a couple of my Canadian buddies that were there that I talked to over the phone, like Bob Johnson, and the great Bob Johnson. Let me clarify that. He's a wonderful man and some great accomplishments in his own career. Len Phillips, people that I had talked to many, many times, but I just never had the opportunity to get up to Canada, and nor they here. And then we met, and it was like, hey, this is wonderful. And it was just, the wrestling was in the evening. Daytime, they had seminars, and it was just fun time, camaraderie, where you get together and you talk and you just hang out even. So that was just a wonderful experience. And that was my first. It's been going on, oh boy, I don't know how many years, countless number of years.
You brought up an interesting point too, because I don't know if a lot of people realize that the life of a professional wrestler, not easy. I mean, they're on TV, but they're responsible for their transportation. If they get hurt, they're basically paying their own medical bills. They're not like pampered celebrities or anything like that.
No, not at all. And acting the same thing. Unless you're the big money maker, then you got people there ready to wipe your nose if they see it dripping. But other than that, okay, you get your payday, and it's not all that great, believe it or not, even when you have a principal role. And sometimes even as a lead, it depends on the budget of the movie. But it's not all that glorious that people think. And with wrestling, it's worse because you're private contract, number one. And it's kind of like, well, you know what? This ain't cutting it for you. Step aside, because I got like people in line waiting to take your spot, and if this don't cut it for you, well, see it. Thanks for coming by. So, of course, what you do because you love it.
What's next for Nikita Breznikov?
Well, I got some projects in the works. Nothing I can speak of right now. So for me, I'm just taking it day by day, see what's happening, and then see where things play out.
You think maybe there's another book in you?
No, not that one at least, because I come out with a big no because it took so long, and it took 2 years to edit. I never probably finished that story, but it took 2 years with Scott, day by day, to edit it, and we never fought. We were always on the same page, literally, with things, and he said he learned a lot because he didn't know a lot about the Northeast and the WWF, but he was grateful for the opportunity to kind of live that time, and I couldn't have done it without him because my writing, because I'm a retired detective sergeant also from Baltimore Police, so I wrote like a police, and it was like, he said, Nikita, this will never sell. I got to trim it up for you. So it's like, sure, and the content was always there. It wasn't like he changed the content or anything like that. So it was like, yeah, we worked well together. I'm very proud, and he surprised me because I got first, before the book was released, he sent me these cards, advertisement cards, and I'm reading it. It says paperback, 286 pages, which is pretty good. I mean, I sent him about 580, so he really had some work to do. But I'm looking, and it's like 227 black and white images. I'm like, what the heck? I think I gave Scott, maybe 40 pictures tops. He got George Napolitano his picture for the cover. And George gave his blessings on that, but it's like, oh man, I hope I don't have to worry about copywriting. And then I looked, was the newspaper clippings. I mean, man, I'll tell you, Jim, I was a big fan. I still am, because I told the wife one time, I said, gee, I'd like to do a book with just newspaper clippings. It'd be neat. Well, pretty much I got my wish. And it's not every story we talk about, but a large majority. The cards that Scott has a newspaper clipping to go along with it. So, and then he's got a section with just like different a collage, and there's like 4 or 5 pages of pictures of me to verify that, yeah, I actually did know these people and work with them and meet them. And newspaper clippings, to me, I really enjoy that. That's nice touch.
Yeah, I wanted to add that if anyone's ever seen Nikita's Facebook page, there are so many great pictures of wrestling cards from the 70s, and you got your little commentary on there too, so it's definitely makes it a lot more nostalgic for people who say, yeah, like I remember watching these, all-star wrestling and championship wrestling, back in the 70s and before the Hulkamania, before the music died, as you said.
Yes. Now, see, with what I do on Facebook, and some people think, well, those are shots in the book. It's like, no, none of those pictures are in the book. And my book stops with 1979, the 70s. That was it. December 31st, the last show was December 30th at 79. That's it. But I show things on the Facebook all the way up to 83 because I did enjoy that time as well. Some people have said, well, we're waiting for part 2 when you cover 80 to 83, and I could do it. And it would probably take 2 or 3, maybe 400 pages, but it's like, nah, I just don't have the time like I did back then to get this book done. Never say never, right? That's always the key to life.
If you never get around to it, Nikita, I don't blame you.
I hear you, man.
Well, his name is Nikita Breznikov, and I would like to thank you for coming on down and sharing some stories with us.
Jim, my pleasure. Always happy to talk wrestling and keep that circle of wrestling going. Good job.
A very special thanks to Texas Truck Cheney and Nikita Breznikov for coming on down to the screening room at the Sherpa Chalet. We've included links to some of their recent stuff in our show notes. Be sure to subscribe to this show on your favorite podcast app, and don't forget to leave us a nice review in Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or iHeartRadio. You can also follow the show at my website, Sherpalution.com, and you can follow me on social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, at Sherpalution. Before the bell rings, Mr. Bruce, before you jump off the turnbuckle, quick, show him the door.
Thanks for listening to Too Many Podcasts. Please disperse. You can go home now. I said you can go home now. Viva la Sherpalution. Viva la Sherpalution. Yo, come back now, you hear?